this study came out of the Safe Streets Pinellas Project. This was a Vision Zero project that we were assisting for Pinellas, the local MPO for the county. And so we started off this project with collecting collision data from 2015 through 2019, and 5 figures worth of data, tens of thousands of collisions. We mapped out patterns and looked at ways that the county could improve safety on its roadways. And then as we were doing this work, the COVID-19 pandemic happened and everyone went into lockdown. We went into our home offices. As we were doing the analysis for 2015 through 2019, we got an email saying, hey, 2020 collision data is starting to be released. Like, okay, now that all the workplaces are closed, restaurants are closed, the parks are closed, originally planned spring breaks might not be happening as well. As the country is going under lockdown, how is that changing traffic patterns? How is that changing ways in which we travel? And how is that changing like the material conditions on the roadways that we're already analyzing, but based on pre-COVID data? And so on the right here, you see our collision data. This is killed and severely injured collisions in the county between 2015 and 2019. And we thought, how is this going to change when we plug in 2020 data instead of 2019 data? And so that's exactly what we did. And we found something fascinating, which is, as expected, roadway volumes went down, and so did the general volume of collisions. So you can see up top there, you have 2019 on the left and 2020 on the right. You see a big drop off in the overall number of collisions between 2019 and 2020. However, when you look at the KSI collisions, the killed and severely injured collisions, there's not really much of a drop off at all. In fact, it looks almost exactly the same. And you can see the black bar, that's the average from 2019 being superimposed on 2020. You can see like by June, July, and August, we're back to normal. Even during the peak of the pandemic and the peak of shutdowns with March, April, and May, you see those regular collisions dropping by almost half, whereas the KSI collisions didn't seem to change much at all. As we're going further and further along into 2021, we're beginning to see these trends being replicated all across the country, which is that, in fact, as the roadways were getting emptier during the lockdown, deaths and severe injuries are actually peaking. And this is the NSC report saying that, in fact, like motor vehicle deaths are highest in 13 years, despite, as you saw, like a dramatic drop in miles driven. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Zahra to talk a little bit more about what's going on.
Yeah, so we decided to carry out a streetlight analysis to figure out what exactly was going on the roadways that was causing this increase in KSI collisions. So basically, the core questions that we were trying to answer were, what are the conditions on the roadways that are contributing to the rise in KSI collisions? How has travel in general changed for residents in Pinellas County? So where exactly are they going? And then the last question we want to answer is, what are the attributes of the trips that are being made? Are they longer? Are people going faster? Are they going slower? And what is the change in the total trips? So like we said, we took a look at Pinellas County, and you can see Pinellas County there on the right in the blue. And we used municipality boundaries in Pinellas County as our zones for streetlight. And if you can see like the zoomed in square, which is white on the map, and you can see it zoomed in red, you can see that the boundaries themselves are pretty irregular. So we had to do a little bit of cleanup in GIS before we could even use them. And then we also decided to create gates on all of the interstates and state routes that are leaving Pinellas County. And so in that way, we wanted to account for travel to the greater region. And we decided to collect all of this data from March to August in 2019 and 2020. And so the reason why we chose streetlight was because it allowed us to calculate data at the scale that we needed to understand the general trends throughout the county. So the first analysis that we carried out was an origin destination analysis, once again, to figure out where exactly are people going and has that changed since the pandemic started. And the second analysis we carried out was the zone activity analysis to just compare the total number of trips and the characteristics of those trips. So how fast people are traveling, how long the trips are, etc. And so after we ran the analyses, these were our key takeaways. So the overall change in travel behavior throughout the county, we found out that trips in 2019 and 2020, if you compare them, in 2020, trips went down 30%. So that's the total number of trips over the study period, which is what we sort of expected. But we found that, as Terence mentioned earlier, KSI collisions did not go down. So actually, as a percentage, KSI collisions went up. And so in order to sort of study that further, we decided to take a closer look at a single municipality, and that is Pinellas Park. So in the map, you can see Pinellas Park in blue and all the other zones in the county in yellow. So looking at Pinellas Park, the first thing that we wanted to compare was, are there any changes in destinations for trips that are originating in Pinellas Park? And on the left, you can see the top 5 destinations from Pinellas Park for 2019, and on the right, you can see them for 2020. And you can kind of see that St. Petersburg is the top destination for both 2019 and 2020, and that's true for the top 3. However, you'll see on the right that travel to and from the region, so that is travel through I-275 and State Route 93, has actually gone up as a total percentage of trips from Pinellas County. So the total percentage of trips in Pinellas Park that are ending up in places outside the county has actually gone up in 2020. And so we decided to take a closer look at that. So on the left, you can see the total VMT by month for trips originating in Pinellas Park and ending up in St. Petersburg, which is a municipality that's right next to Pinellas Park. And on the right, you can see trips that are ending up in that I-275 gate that we created. So basically trips that end up outside the county. And so on the left, in the light green, you see 2020. And as you can expect, there's a big drop in April once all of the stay-at-home orders went into place. And there's a slight increase in May, but then it sort of steadies out and it stays at that new level. But on the right, you'll see that there's a big drop in April. However, trips to the region immediately spring right back up. So in June and July, you're pretty much at pre-pandemic levels. And so we sort of made the assumption that if you are making trips that are shorter and closer to home, you're less likely to make them in 2020 or during the pandemic. But if you were making trips that were long distance, you're more likely to continue making those trips. And so you're more likely to continue driving outside the county. And then we decided to take a look at the actual trip characteristics for the entire county. So we looked at trip duration, trip lengths, and trip speeds. And in these graphs, you can see 2020 data in orange. And for trip duration in 2020, it went up. Trip lengths also went up as we expected, since there seems to be more travel going outside the county. And sort of as a result of the lower trips and also the longer trips, you sort of see trip speeds go up as well. And those are the different things that are contributing to that rise in KSI collisions that you're seeing.